Thanks for having me.
President Trump told Christian Broadcasting Network that he views much of the media, not all, as the opposition party. That would mean journalists are actively trying to defeat him. Do you believe that?
Well, I think when you look at some of the comments and some of the ways that things have been phrased, it clearly isn't an objective look at what he has done, both during the campaign, the transition, and now. There's constantly this sense that or skepticism, which there should be a healthy skepticism, but I think when you look at the president's record, both as a candidate during his transition and now his first week in office, you recognize that he has succeeded time and time and time again. And frankly, the default should be, what can't he do, not will he do.
But opposition party is a very strong phrase. Now, you're entitled to push back against unfair coverage. Some of the coverage has been unfair. But this seems to go farther and almost define the media as the enemy.
Well, I think in many cases there are stories and journalists who start off with a negative disposition on how they're going to cover the president and his actions.
So, okay, now you yourself, in this briefing room last weekend, made a pretty forceful statement to reporters that the media are vowing to hold President Trump accountable. You're going to hold the media accountable against what you called irresponsible behavior. It's been reported that President Trump perhaps strongly encouraged you to deliver those remarks.
I don't divulge private conversations I have with the president.
I asked the question carefully.
I know you did, and I appreciate that effort.
All right, you've taken a lot of heat.
I have.
Personally, for your handling of the president's claim.
Right.
About he believes up to 5 million people voted illegally in this election. There is no evidence of that so far, as many news organizations reported, but you kept saying, well, that's what he believes.
That's what he believes. And
you didn't want to embrace it yourself.
No, but that's not my job. Okay, my job is to speak on behalf of the president. When I asked the president about this issue, he said, that's what I believe, and that's what I want you to tell folks. My job is to be his spokesperson and to articulate his vision, his ideas, his successes, and in this case, what he believes.
If the president points to a Pew study, you pointed to it as well, as buttressing the case that there was a lot of illegal voting, and the author of the study says...
That's one example.
Okay, and the author of the study tells journalists, no, we didn't say that, we're talking about registration rolls. Isn't it fair for journalists to point that out?
Sure, it's fair to point that out. But I think that's why the president's asked for is, talked about the need for an executive order that will look into this. We've got millions of people registered twice, voting, dead people voting. I think it's, when you look at the integrity of our voting system, the question should be, why aren't we doing this? This is our right to vote. One man, one vote, one person, one vote is something that's the bedrock of our democracy. It's what our country is built on. So the idea that we wouldn't take this seriously is something that should be asked. I mean, the president showing the leadership on this and making sure that when someone goes out to vote and they wait in a line, that they know that that vote not only counts, but it's equal to the person that's behind them and in front of them, is something that should be something that's applauded.
Sean, front page headline in the New York Times, Trump repeats election lie. Washington Post front page story, Trump's disregard for the truth threatens his ability to govern. Fair or unfair?
Well, again, that goes back to your first question about opposition party. I think it's one thing to state an opinion or to state, hey, here's what he said and here's what the facts show or here's what some studies show. But when they come out and say he lied and they have no evidence that certain things don't exist. For example, the president went and said the other day, and I said it as well, that we had the largest audience. When you start combining the ratings that people watched at live television, the YouTube views that we're seeing, the people who watched it live stream on Twitter and other places, those are the numbers that I can put out that show that it was the largest audience. And so far, I haven't had anybody, not one person, come back to me with numbers to refute that. That any prior, and if you think of it, someone in the briefing room throughout Ronald Reagan, and the last time I checked, in 1984 and 88, or 80 and 84, right, we didn't have Twitter, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have the Internet.
So a headline that says lie, in your view, is acting like an opposition party?
Absolutely.
Is that fair?
But here's the thing that's interesting about the way the media operates. When they make a mistake, they write a correction at the bottom and just call it a correction. When the administration has a difference of opinion with someone in the media, they call it a lie.
Or makes a mistake.
But yeah. they scrutinize every single point, which is fair. We have a free press, and I'm not saying they shouldn't.
Right.
But it's interesting how it's a very one-way street.